Okay, so just have a look at this house. I've enclosed some images which are what you can see here. These are the reference images from which you build the model from, and there's another folder here which shows you the final model, what we intend to do today. So it's going to be a house like this, which essentially has all circular walls, domes, projections, walls, and all that, and it's got a pool in the center. And what you can see here is the contoured landform. You can't quite see the slope of it. It's a very gentle slope, and some sort of funny looking windows just for some fun. And this is the pool area. This is the inside of the house that opens into the pool, so we have it like completely opened. We have some vertical members and some horizontal members and some glass material here attached to this. Some steps here going in a curved fashion, plinth and entrance porch and all that. And you can see the walled surfaces between the domes happening and nicely merging with the domes. Fine. So we are going to do all of these. If I go outside on this particular folder, you can see these are the reference images. So we are going to draw these basic curves and build a model out of this. And we are going to first and foremost import an image of the plan form, and then draw some curves on top of it, and then start building with the basics like this. Okay, and then this is the vault, which is going to be gracefully joining with the dome. Fine. Okay, so let's begin with this. So what you need to do is start with a large meters format, large meters template. Okay, so we opened a large meters format, and first thing we need to do is import a file. So we go to import and we go to that particular folder, and we'll put this to all files, which is currently active, but it's not showing any image files. Okay, I guess this import doesn't work with JPEG files, so we have another method. What we can do is there is a tool called as picture frame. So if you just type picture frame, then it will allow you to kind of import the geometry. Now we really need to know which geometry we want to import. So let me just see. Let me just go to the large icons mode and see which one. So essentially we need this one, which is geometry 3. Why we need this one is I had already drawn some reference lines over it. We can even take this one and draw over it, but I would prefer this because this has got some lines, curves already drawn on top of it. So I'll just import this and double click on this, and here you'll have to define a rectangle like this. You can use the shift button to constrain its proportions. And there we have it. So now you are going to draw over on top of this. You are going to draw a couple of circles, couple of ellipses like this, and this yellow line essentially shows you some sort of axis or center lines being joined of this various ellipses in the circles. So you see one here joining the center of this with the center of this ellipse. So if you look at it very carefully, there is an ellipse here, there is an ellipse here, there is an ellipse here, and the rest of these are all circles. And we zoom into this. Again, this circle is joined with this circle with another circle actually, which is trimmed away. So part of this is trimmed away, right? And so again, there is another circle here, and but in some places we are retaining the circles so that it becomes part of a pool here like that, whereas in other areas we are trimming away the circles. In this case also it's actually trimmed. Fine. So we are going to build from this, but what's very important for us is to organize everything in layers, because it can at a point it can get to a situation where you have a lot of clutter of lines and you wouldn't really know what's what, and everything would be messed up. So let's organize everything in proper layers. Fine. So we'll create a layer for the image and we put the image under that. Fine. So we have an image and we'll we'll start a layer called as a reference layer. You can call it reference curves, so that whatever lines we draw, like all the circles and everything, resides under this. So what you can see here as yellow lines are basically nothing but these are the lines connecting the centers, so that we get some sort of reference construction lines to kind of put the centers of the circles and ellipses to. Okay, so we have this and let's start drawing. I've created these two layers and I'll put the image layer in image, and I won't lock it at because we need to scale it, and we can put the reference curves as the current layer. Okay, so what we have to do next is we need to kind of scale this appropriately. Like for example, if the actual dimensions of this is 4 meters diameter, then we'll have to, now this is not 4 meters, this must be either more or less. So we need to maybe put this to like an exact scale. So how we do it is, if let's say we assume that this room size is 4 meter diameters, then we'll have to draw a radius of 2 meters and that scale the actual dimensions, that is from here to here, which may be 1 meter or which may be 5 meters now. So we'll have to then scale that to match to 2 meters. Okay, so that can simply be done by just drawing a line. So I'll come to the polyline tool and I'll right click. So I have the line segment selected. I just draw from here to here, or I'll have to actually type here. So we'll just type 2 meters. Since we are working in meters, let's have 2 meters type, and then look at the lines. Actually it's very close to the scale. If you can see here, it's almost 2 meters, just little more than the dimension. But anyways, the next job is to align that line with the angle. So we'll just align it like this, and then we say hit enter. Now you can't see the colors, so what you can do is you can select the image and go to properties, go to materials, and under this you need to select object under this, and then we'll just reduce the transparency of this a tad like this, but still it's not visible. Then what you can do is you can select the line that you've drawn and you can simply change the color of it to whatever you want so that it's noticeable. Now it's noticeable. What can even you do more is you can directly change, let's say all the future curves that you're going to draw, you want it of a particular color, you can change it here. You can come here and change it to whatever color. So I'll take a red for now. So if I draw some more lines here, all of that will be in red because that is the current layer. So now we have this. The next job is to scale this. So we still have to select scale tool, which is under this, and there are a lot of tools under this. There is 3D scale, there is 2D scale, 1D scale. So we use 2D scale. We zoom into this, and the object is already selected, so I don't have to select it. It will directly ask me to start scaling it. Now how does the scaling work? Is essentially you'll have to define the base point first and then define what you want to scale to what. So basically that means I'll have to first define the origin point like this. If your snap is off, put your snap off, and on, and put your end mode on here. And the second thing is the reference. So what you want to change is this. So I want to change this length up to here. So I want to change this length, and second reference point is what do you want to change it to. So I want to change it to this. Now in your case, that 2 meters may not be very close to the existing dimensions. It may be further off, or it may be very short also even. So it depends how you have imported the JPEG and how you have kind of scaled it during the import. So now this is exactly scaled. Now you want to check the dimension of this. You can just type a command called as distance, and just simply measure the distance from this end to this end, and it shows you 2 meters, so it's properly scaled. Okay, fine. So next what we can do is start building the circles and the ellipses, right? So before that you might want to kind of draw these lines, so you are allowed to do that. What you can do is, since this rectangle is an inclined rectangle, we can use a method which is a third method, where you are required to select 3 points. The first 2 points you can define one edge of the rectangle, and the third point will define the other edge of the rectangle. Fine. So okay, so then I'll start drawing the circles from the corner points of the squares. So let's draw the circle first. We'll use the center method since we have a center here. It will not perfectly match, but that's okay. You can just approximately match it. So we were supposed to draw this circle to be of exact radius of 2 meters. So let's do that. So we'll have to constrain it to this end point here, but it's slightly smaller. We'll do, no problem. Come here and we just say enter so that it takes the same dimension. Come here and we have to draw an ellipse now. Fine. So how do you draw an ellipse? Is go under ellipse, and there are a couple of methods you can use. We'll use the first method, which is using a center, because we have a center here and 2 diameters, so we'll use that. Now what do you think is going to be the diameters of this? This diameter is not going to be this point. See, what is approximate orientation of this ellipse is basically it's oriented this way. If I have to draw a line here, if I have to draw a line from here to here, approximately this is the orientation. Why? Because it's got a longer length here and it's got a shorter length, so it has to be perpendicular to the curves. But I can't take like this. If I start drawing my ellipse from the center, and if I say this is my radius, it will not work. See, you will get something weird. Are you getting it? So the orientation of ellipse is relative to the diameters, right? In this case, it will have to be somewhere here, because what I can read from this ellipse is it would be somewhere around here. So, and see now, it's more or less kind of matching up. This is a one ellipse, there's one here. So start here, and this is going to be in line with this. You can put your smart track and you can even get that line. Not quite. But anyways, we can be approximate also. Draw this to here. And then there's one here. So we just hit enter and start with the next. So this one, the quadrants will be along this line. Okay, now what we need to do next is, as I've told you, these are nothing but these are additional circles which will be trimmed away later, and then which will kind of merge with these walls. So we'll have to draw the additional circles, but this circles is tangent to these circles. So we'll have to use a method of drawing circles which uses tangent. So there is this circle, tangent, tangent, radius. So this is one line appears indicating that it's tangent to this, then it's tangent to this, and then the third is your radius. The radius appears to be a little smaller than what we want, so we need to increase it slightly. So we can say it's at 2.2 or 2.5. Yeah, it seems to be perfect now. See, this radius is little smaller than this. If you look at this, because you have an ellipse here, this is more gentler. So we won't be able to use the same radius. It will be slightly more. The 2.5 works actually, so we can go with that. If you want to increase slightly, you can increase it to whatever. Yeah, this seems okay. And here it's the largest, so Again we say enter and draw this. My guesswork is it would be close to 5 meters. No, it will be much smaller than that. I'll do it again. Enter. First curve, second curve, and we had used 5 earlier. Let's use 4. I think it should be okay. Let's not waste more time drawing it precisely. So these circles are drawn, and there's one here. So we say enter, tangent, tangent, and say 4 will be too much here. So say go with 2.5. Little bigger, but I think it will do. Say enter and draw the circle in the center. Now what is so important about drawing this circle precisely is it needs to join at least like 2 circles. It should be tangent to at least 2 circles, and for this exercise you can afford to have little gap, and we'll close up that gap later, but there won't be any method that you would have to kind of draw a circle with its points on all of the other circles. It will be very difficult. So at the most we can make sure it joins 2 circles using the tangent method, and maybe it's very close to the other 2. So let's just use the same method of using circle, tangent, tangent. So let's say we want to make it tangent to maybe this one and this one. See, I told you it can get very close to the other circles, but on this corner there is quite a big gap, so we'll try to fill that up later. And the radius is currently 2.5, so we can go with that. But there are issues, it's neither touching here nor is it touching here, so we'll have to clean this up later. At these 2 points it's joining. Okay, so we have this. Now the next job is we'll put off the image since we don't want the image anymore, and we'll just need to do some trimming, like all the circles needs to be trimmed away. So I go for trim option, and the cutting objects in this case is this and this. You select this and say enter and cut this away. Again repeat the command for this and this, trim this away. And here I won't trim it because I want the rest of this circle for the pool, because as I've told you the pool is going to be of this shape, and actually I don't want this curve, so I can trim it away. So we can trim away this one, but I really don't require, I can trim it away. So we'll say trim this and this. In this case we'll have to trim away this portion. We'll trim cutting objects, this. Fine, and this one doesn't touch this building. So here we'll have to do some small tweaks because we need to break this circle and then join this. So maybe we can do it at a later date, but I was wondering if we can really draw a good circle. So we just try to draw a circle which at least touches 3 sides. So what we can do is we can just draw a line from center of this, center of this, center of this, center of this. Just try drawing circle with another method using 3 points. So we have 3 points. So let's say I want to use, we require an intersection here. Use an intersection here, here, and so at least the circle joins 3 sides, right? Which is good enough. And the 4th side it doesn't touch. So it's fine with me because I can then later date I can split it and touch, make it touch. Fine. So this is just about drawing the curves. So now that we have the curves, we'll try to extrude these in the next step. Okay, so now that we have this, we need to extrude these. So we can simply extrude these by selecting them like this, and of course we don't want this circle, because this circle is part of the pool, and even this is part of a pool, and this will be also a wall. So what we need to do is, before extruding this out, we need to make a copy of this, because one circle would be part of the pool and the other circle will have walls. So we'll just make a copy of this. So say Control C and Control V, so it's at the same place. If I click on this now, it will show the two curves. So one curve needs to be trimmed away, which is a wall. So wall will go from here to here. You won't have it cross the pool. So we'll have to trim that away. So we'll use a trim command for that and trim it away. Select any one curve and trim it away. It's trimmed already. So this is for the wall, whereas this is for the pool. For the pool as well, we need to trim it in the same manner. There won't be a line here, so we'll just use same command, say enter, and trim this one as well. Now again for pool, this curve also will be shared. So pool will have this curve as well as this curve, so in a way this also will have to be multiplied. So we say Control C, Control V, and we trim away those portions. So we'll use these as the cutting edges, 1 and 2. Okay, so we use this as the cutting edge and we trim away any one of the curves, this one and this one. Sorry, I did not say enter. So select this, select this, select this in quick succession, use a shift, I guess. So these are your cutting objects, and you need to say enter and then select this and select this. So it would have cut. So you see this, hold shift and just select all of these like this. So this is your pool curve. We will first join it before we put it in the pool layer. So, and we can put this off, so clutter is reduced, and actually we can now get rid of these lines. We don't want these lines, so all of this can be gotten rid of. So simply get rid of them. Fine. So we have a more cleaner kind of a plan. Right? Now what we need to do next is, so we have a wall here, we have these walls here. All we need to simply do is just select all of them this way and make sure we are in the walls layer. So you put your walls layer on, because we need to extrude this and we need all the extrusions not to go in the reference curve but to go in the walls curve. So you just simply go to surface, extrude curve straight, and go to the perspective mode. You might want to put your shaded mode on here, and we need to give it a height. So let's say we go for a height of 3 meters. So just type 3 here, enter, and everything gets extruded. Now just in case if you want to build the thicknesses for the walls and stuff, then what you would need to do is, first you'll have to offset them. So you'll go to curve, edit object tools, under offset you'll have to offset these and give it a distance of whatever is the thickness of your wall, say 0.23 or 0.30, and then you'll have to give it a direction which is inside of this. You want to offset it on the inside, not on the outside. So do it this way. You can continue doing it for all the walls. Yeah, I can do it for this also. Okay, and then it's a matter of just selecting. Let's just do this larger beats first and let's do this later. So we can just hold these curves like this and simply go to surface, extrude curve straight, put your perspective mode, just type 3. They would all become solid no, in this case they're not solid, shows hollow. Anyways, while they're selected, you could just say solid cap planar holes. 1 second. Solid cap planar holes. No, it doesn't really work that way. So what we'll do is we can do it one at a time. So you can hold these two and then right click here and say extrude straight. Say type 3. Actually it should have worked. I don't know why it's not working. And then you could cap these. The whole thing is getting capped. Because there must be something that I'm doing wrongly, but generally when you have two loops like this, one outside of the other, and if you try to, okay, the only, I get it, I should have used not surface extrude, should have used solid extrude. So use a straight solid extrude. That's working now. And type 3 meters, there you have it. Fine. So likewise you do it for the other also, but for now we will go with single lines. Fine. So we'll just extrude the single lines. And so we'll not use solid extrude, we'll use surface extrude. Just type 3 meters and there we have it. Now next up what we need to do is, see if you can see here the walls are nicely merging now, here and both at the backs, but if your curves are not tangent to these curves, you'll get some sort of artifacts or something, you'll get to see some gaps and stuff. So make sure you draw those curves perfectly tangent. Next what we need to do is draw the domes. So it's very simple process. You just have to draw some spheres on top of these, and wherever there are ellipses you'll have to draw it. The solid equivalents of ellipse are called as ellipsoids, and the solid equivalents for the spheres are called as circles are called as spheres. So let's go for spheres using the center point. We need to make sure, in order for the cursor not to jump around, we just clean this up and we just have center selected, so that it just takes the center like this, and maybe we want the perpendicular on, so that the point that we click on the edge of the cylinder is perpendicular, or you can even put near on, so it will take a point, a near point on the edge. So this is one dome. We'll say enter, take the center of this, take the perpendicular, enter. This is an ellipsoid, so what we do is we take instead an ellipsoid which is here. We'll use the diameter method, so left click. Now the diameter you all know it's on this side, you can't just select diameter anyway, it's the longer length and the shorter length. So what I may want to do here is put the chords on instead. I don't want even the center is required to select the center, and the chords for the diameter. So, and near I don't want, so go and select the chords here and chord here. Now see, it's jumping at the centers of other circles. So what we can do is, we can, while we are in the middle of the command, we go to the top view and we can select the chords like this. It will be much easier. If you want to make sure you're selecting at the same level in space, sometimes what happens, it might show chord here, but it might take the bottom chord, over here. So for that not to happen, you will have both these viewports on. So when I'm selecting this chord, I know in the perspective mode it's at the same level. So this is one diameter, and the other dimension is much easier to select it in the plan than in perspective. With perspective you have a lot of circles and jumps around the center points of them. So this is your first chord. So we've just given the diameter dimensions, we need to give a height. So we come here in the one of the elevation modes, and I guess this is the height of the dome, so we'll have it approximately match up with that, like this, and we have an ellipsoid drawn. So then we come to the next one here, and again we draw another ellipsoid. So then again we require chords, so we can take one of the chords in the perspective mode and then continue drawing in the, see again now this one is jumping to the lower chord, right? Can you see that? So we don't want that, we want the chord on the top. So now this is still not the top. we need to do micro movements like this. We don't want intersections also, so we would remove intersections. No, not this. There it is. See now, it's matching up on the same level. And then we want this chord, which is again matching up, so we need to just give the height, which is around here. Likewise, we need to do it for this also. So just say enter, chord, and this you can do in perspective because there's no other circles around, so it won't be difficult. So and then you come to this, give it a height. So that's about drawing the domes and the walls. Next up, what we need to do is we need to cut the lower portions of the spheres, right? We want only the top portion. So here you can't see the domes. You need to just put on the shaded mode on. And what we need to do is just draw a line here at 3 meters and just trim away the portions. So how do we draw it? Is we can just draw a line like this. Just take any of the points here and just hold your shift button and draw a line like this. And you don't want the walls, so I guess we've drawn the domes also in the wall layer, so we'll just select all the domes like this. Come here, right click and put it on the dome layer. Just put this one off for now and just select all the wall layers like this and put them on the walls, so that we can put the domes layer on, make it current, and put the walls layer off, and we are able to see only this, except that we are not able to see the line, so we can draw the line again, no problem. Take one of the chords of this, draw lines, enter, and just simply use your trim command. Use a cutting object, enter, select, just have a crossing window from right to left, and if it doesn't cut all of it, just click them away like this and just delete the line. We don't want this line. Just go to perspective view and just see if they are proper. Yes, just put your walls on. Yeah, okay, so we'll continue from here. And now that we have the domes and the ellipsoid in place, we need to draw out the barrel vaults that we have in between these and connect them, and then you'll have to trim away the intersection points. Okay, so let's begin. What we need to do is we need to start with a new layer called as vault and make it your current. And you might have put all of the other objects inside of the layer, respective layers, like the domes, walls, and the vaults by now. And before we start drawing the walls, I need to take you back to reference curves. So we'll make reference curves as the object current layer, and we'll put off all of the other layers for now, including pool layer. So I'll just explain you a bit about how we want to draw the vaults. So we'll go to the top view. So essentially, if you look at this, the vaults are going to span from this end to this end, and they are going to have a particular direction. So they are not going to have a direction like this, right? They are going to have a direction which is almost perpendicular to these curves here, these two curves, this one and this one. And likewise, you'll have vaults spanning on this side this way, and you'll have one over here. So what we need to do is, we need to, in order for us to exactly draw perpendicular between these two lines, we need to really identify where the intersection lines are, and we'll have to draw a line here. So I'll right click on this, and this time I'll have to put only the intersection mode on, and just find the intersection here and find the intersection here and draw a line. Again, come back here, find an intersection here and find an intersection here, draw a line. And then what we do is we'll draw one more line between the midpoint of this and midpoint of this. So we'll have to put the midpoint on now and just draw a line here. So now we precisely know the orientation of the dome. In a way, I can say this is the top view of my vault and this is the size of my vault. So only thing, if I draw a vault like this, portion of the vault goes inside the dome here, right? So we'll have to then trim it away and stuff. So likewise, you'll have to draw a similar thing here, and a similar thing here. The only issue here is this one is not joining here. So what we will have to do is we'll have to split this curve and we'll have to join these here. So how we can do this is just select it and put its control points on like this. Or actually what you can do is you can just draw a line, put your near on, draw a line from this point to this point, and just split the curve at this point. So we go to split, and then we'll use point as an option this time, and we'll select the curve to split, and this is the point at which we want to split it. So if you see now it's split. Now what we need to do is we need to shift these points here, 2 points here. So we'll pull the control point on and we'll just select this point and just manually we can just shift it, drag it like this. You can put this on and just manually drag this like this. Fine. So that we are able to now draw from this intersection point to this intersection point, this intersection to this, and this to this. So we'll draw lines again from this intersection to this intersection, enter, and this intersection to this intersection, and this intersection to this intersection, and this to this, and just draw the lines coming in the centers of these. Okay, once we have this, so we go to the perspective mode now. Actually we want all of these are lying on the ground now, and we are going to build these walls on top of the walls which is off here. So we need to shift these lines on top of the walls. What we do is we'll make a copy of these. So we'll copy all of these on top. So we'll select all the curves like this, and then we'll put the walls layer on. And we need to move from a base point. So where do we move it from to where do we want to move it from to? So we can move it from the ground center line. We can take one of the center points of the circle and then go to the center points of the top circle and move it. So what I can do is I can go to move command, not move, we'll use copy command. I'll take the center of this, so I'll have to put the center on here and remove midpoint and intersections. So it takes the center from the ground level, and then I can come on top or the top level, and now it takes the center of the top circle. So it has made a copy of that. Okay, and then in which case then what I can do is I can call this as reference 1 and reference 2. So since this one is already selected, I'll create another layer and call it as reference curves 1 or ground, so that I know that these are two separate, and then I can put this one off. So we have only left with this, so the snap points don't jump around. There would be otherwise too many clutter of lines. So now that we have this, we should know approximately what is the height of the domes. So accordingly we decide on the height of the vault. Okay, so we'll just temporarily put it on, and it seems to be quite high. So you can go to the front view also and have a look at it. It's almost like 2 grids, right? 2 meters. Each grid is 1 meter. So just for an idea, go back to perspective mode, and then we'll put off the domes, and we'll put off the walls also. We don't want the walls either. So we are on the top of the walls now. We can start building here. The only issue here is we want to draw. See, essentially we are going to draw some cross sections. So these are going to be cross sections of the vault, and we are going to use these as the rails. So instead of a regular vault which is parallel, right, on the sides, for this particular vault we'll have a curved edge here and a curved edge here, and you'll have an arc here and an arc here, right? So in order for us to draw it like this, we need some line going up like that, because we need the center point, we need the crown point of the arch. So then we'll start drawing a line from here. Make sure you're on ref curves, and you put the end on here, come here, and then I can't restrict this in the perspective mode. I can't exactly keep this vertical, except that I'll have to write some dimensions here. So what I'll do is I'll start drawing here and then I'll go to the front mode. And so we know that the dome is 2 grids up, so my vault will have to be a little shorter than that if it needs to connect with the domes. It can't be higher than that, so it has to be shorter. So approximately about this height I will draw the line, and then I can just copy and paste that line everywhere. So I'll just take this and say copy from this point to this point, and we want it at all those points because we're going to have arches at those points. Once that is done, that's very simple. You just take an arc tool, 3-point arc, use first point, second point, this is a third point, this is a 1 arc, then first point, second, third. So likewise you draw for all the vaults. So here it will have to be from here to here to here, here to here to here, here to here to here. So we have the arcs drawn. Now it's a pretty simple procedure. The only issue here is we have this as one complete arc. We require this also as an arc only starting from this point and ending here. We can't have it more, otherwise the vault will continue till the end of the rail. So we need to split this here, and then we'll have to check. We have one here, but we have only one curve. See, now we also have walls here, right? We have already drawn the walls, so we actually don't require these. Fine, so we can use the same ones to split. And then this is there, this one is there, this one is there. We just need to only split this. So what I can do it in the perspective view. I can just come to split, and I can just use a point also method and just specify this point, end point, say enter, and there are 2 curves. Fine, so this curve will be used for this vault, right? This curve will be used for this vault. Now we'll put our vault layer on, since we want the surfaces to be created in vault, and we'll just do that simple procedure of sweep to rail. So use a sweep to rail, and for which you require the rails to be defined first. The thing about defining rails is you can't it depends upon where you click on the rail. So if on this rail, if I click here on this end, for this rail if I click on this end, then the vault will be twisted. So I have to make sure I select on the other rail also in the same direction, at the same end. Okay, so in this case it will have to be this end. Similarly, now it's asking you for the cross sections. Similarly, for the cross sections, if I select on this side of the arch, for the other one also I'll have to select on this side of the arch, not on this side. So then once you select this and say enter and leave everything as is, just keep this one to do not simplify, don't change anything else. So one vault is done. You might want to just put on the domes and see this one has got a little higher than, so it should have been a little lower. So we can do the tweak little bit. So what we can do is we can redo it. So you just have to delete this. You can just select this, put the control points on, and take this one down. Sorry, you can't do that, so you'll have to do it again, because that is the thing about control points. If it's a circle or an arc, the control points can twist that geometry. So you have to do it again, and we will actually draw it at a much lower, use a 3-point method. What we have to do is, in this case we'll keep it very low, so we'll put a near point on. We'll take a point on the line which is much lower, in fact. Okay, so I've drawn it. Now we are in the vault layer, that's why it's showing that color. We have to make sure we are in this layer. We put this under this, and then likewise what I suggest is we'll do it the same for the others also, since there are height issues. Just have to delete all these other things, redraw them. Just right click here and see, look for your end, start end point on arc. So this one, and here, this one, and so that's it. Go to wall layer, execute the surface with 2 rail. 1, 2, 3, 4, enter. Enter 1, 2, 3, 4, enter. Enter 1, 2, 3, 4, enter. Just put on your walls and see now. Domes seems pretty low, but it does the job. Could have been a little higher. That's fine. So the next job now is to cut away the extras. So we have all these extras here. So we can simply use a trim command and use these 4 domes as the cutting edge first. This would be a 2-step process. One is to cut away the walls, or use the domes as the cutting edge and cut away the walls. The second process will involve selecting walls as the cutting edges and cut away the parts of the domes. Okay. So here we are cutting away the, so 1, 2, 3, 4, enter. So just cut away like this, very simple. Okay, and then we select the walls as the cutting objects, 1, 2, 3, and then enter. Object to trim are these domes, 1, 2, surface, and this one. So now, and there's one more here. So now it's all clean from inside, if you can see, right? There's one here also, and there's one here. Yes, that's pretty much done. And then we can put the walls on and see how it looks. And put the walls, these walls are drawn in the walls layer. Only thing, there is some change of sides here. So here you can see the backside on top. So what we need to do is select this. If there are some backsides seen like this on top, select those objects and go to analyze, and then it will show you some arrows. So then you just have to click on the surfaces again till the arrow points down and say enter. So then it will reverse the directions of this. Okay, so let's continue from here. Now that we have the domes and the walls ready, we need to punch some holes into the walls, build the pool over here, and build the projections and the contours. So let's go to the folder and have a look at the images. So these are the kind of funky windows we wanted to, some projections like this, steps, the plinth, covered area for the porch, pool, and some contours like this. And also the internal area, which is the glass wall. So we're going to build a few mullions here, and the sash bars and some glass material. It's going to look like this finally. Okay, let's get started. So let's begin with, say, the curtain walls over here. So for which, I guess, let's put off all the layers and just look at the walls. Put the domes off, put the wall off, look at the walls. So I guess now that we're going to put the windows, we're going to see through the thickness of the walls. So we have to make sure that these walls have a thickness. So let's just do that first. Let's put off these reference layers, and we can simply give a thickness to these walls by just offsetting these. So instead of a surface offset, because if we do a surface offset, you'll get a void in between. So we don't want a void, so we'll use a solid offset. Enter. You can do it all at once as well. So 1, 2, 3. So I'll do these larger circles and ellipses first, and then I'll do the fillers here. Okay, say enter, and this arrow pointing out means it's going to offset on the outside. So you want to offset it on the outside, on the inside. You want to offset it in the inside, so we can just click once on the surface. You'll have to click on each of the surface to say all the offsets are going to be on the inside, and you might want to give it a distance. So to offset by say 0.20 or 0.23, let's say 0.20, say enter, and say hit enter, and then you have walls. Likewise, let's do it for these walls also. So hit enter to repeat the command, select the surface, so enter, and this time we want these offset to be outside this wall, as in it's going to be inside over here in this area. So hit enter. If you have specified the distance, the thickness, hit enter, and likewise say enter and do it for these two walls. Again we want it on the inside here. So we have the walls here. Next up, what you can do is you can look at these two walls. There's an overlap, so you can always split these away if you want. But if you're going to union all the walls, then it's going to take care of all the splitting by itself. So it depends whether you want to union it or not. So for now we won't union it, we'll just leave it as is. And now we want to work with this wall because we want to build some glass sort of an opening here. So how do we do it? So first and foremost, what we can do is, in order to put the huge curtain wall here, we need to have a cutout in the wall first. So let's say that cutout we want to be of a height of 2.1 meters. So we can put any object like a square here to a height of 2.1, and then just boolean subtract the surface from the cube, and then we'll get an opening of that height. So let's do it in the plan. Let's go to the plan. Let's just draw some. We can either draw a cube, and we can directly do the boolean subtract, or we can use a rectangle. In this case I'll use a 3-point method because our rectangle is going to be slightly inclined. So the 3 points will allow me to kind of orient the sides of the square. So I'll put it roughly here, here and here. You need to make sure that this rectangle cover all of the walls inside into its boundaries. So now you can see the circle is inside of this boundary. So when I do a boolean subtract, it will cut it away. So once we have this, then what we can do next is we can just extrude this, go to perspective. This is the rectangle. You can just go to solid, planar, curve, extrude, straight, give it a height of 2.1, enter. Then it's a matter of just cutting this away. So what we have to do here is boolean subtract. This is the surface you want to subtract, enter, and this is the cutting object you want to subtract it from. So there we have it. So it looks pretty good. The only issue here is, although we have this opening, there is no space for people to walk around here because this wall is almost in line with this wall. So the people will have to get into the pool and then go on the other side. Don't want that, certainly. So let's go to the top view and see what we can do. So essentially what it means is we want basically an offset from this wall of say 90 centimeters or 1 meters on this side, and it needs to be an exact circle concentric to this circle. So when I have this circle here, that circle will cut away all of these walls inside of it. So the square extrusion doesn't work for us. So we'll have to undo this. Control Z a couple of times. Come back to the top view and we'll delete this. So let's draw a cylinder instead, but for drawing the cylinder we can just take this circle. We don't want the walls, so we'll have to look at the reference curves, or we can draw a fresh curve. So let's say we are drawing the curtain wall. So what we'll do is we'll create a new layer called curtain wall, make it current, and under that we'll create a sub layer called as reference. We'll make this current. We'll start drawing some reference lines first using circle. Take the center of this, put your snap on so that you get the center point located, and then just draw a circle. So we want to draw the circle up to here, and then we'll have to offset this. So we can say curve offset, and this is the curve we want to offset by a distance of say 1 meter, say 0.9. So here it will showing you the feedback that it's going to offset by this much. So offset it. Now if I look at this, if I make a huge cylinder from the circle and cut it all away from all of these walls, we'll get cutouts. All of these walls are going to cut out. The thing is, I don't want to cut these walls on the outside because this is going to be a pool. We don't want any door here leading into the pool. But here, since this is going to be the toilet area or something, we need to have some passageway here, and we need to have a clear passage right from this end to this end, including having a door here. So we might want to cut this part of this wall. So to do that, what we can do is we can convert this cylinder into a sort of a pie shape, starting from here to the center and the center till here, just so that we cut only this wall. We don't want to cut anything beyond it. So let's just draw a line, right click, center, right click, center selected, and let's say we come somewhere here. So we want to draw it up to here at the intersection. We can draw one more line after the intersection here. Over here. Now we can come up to here, enter, and then we need to extend this up to here so that we can trim away this part. The way we do is just type extend or just go under this. There's this extend to here. Select the boundary, enter, select this up to here. Now you need to trim this away, so we go to trim command, select the cutting objects, enter, and this is the cutting. We'll trim this away as well. So now that we have this shape, I might want to shift this a little bit because I don't want the door edge to be like this. I want the door edge to come this way. So I can actually rotate this, come to rotate 2D, left click, select this, and I might want to rotate it. Now I'll leave it to that. Maybe what I will need to do is, maybe I need to draw a line here from here to here so that this is exactly perpendicular to this, like this, and then I need to extend this line to this. So say we extend, this is the boundary, this is what we want to extend it to, and I can enter the command, take this as a boundary, extend this, and we can just trim this away. So now I've slightly done some changes so that I can get a perpendicular edge for this door. Whereas here also I'm not getting a perpendicular edge. So you can go ahead with this, what we had earlier. Or if you want to be perfect, you could just draw some additional lines here and here. So whereas on this side I've left it as it is. I've redrawn things here, so no problem. And now it's a matter of just connecting these lines, just having them all joined. Once we have them all joined up like so, we need to just extrude this. So go to solid, extrude planar curve straight, and now we might want to go to perspective, and it's not becoming a solid. So just type 2.1 and see what happens. No, it's not a solid. Plus we have not drawn it on the ground, so there is a problem that we're having here. Let's just delete this surface here in this view and look at the lines. Look at this, the line that we had drawn over here has kind of snapped to a point on the lower plane, whereas these were drawn at higher plane. So the way we can just move all of these, we just select it and just say transform set XYZ coordinates, and we want to move the whole thing in the Z direction. So we use set Z, say OK, and we move it on the ground. Just move your cursor on the ground, it's moved. Now if you try extruding, go to solid extrude, and we'll use a height of 2.1. So now you can see all of these portions are going to be cut. So this door is going to be a little smaller, but here we are going to get a bigger size door because we slightly changed the shape of the circle here. Anyways, now we just do a boolean subtract. We need to cut it from all of this, so we just collect it in succession like this, and we hit enter, and you see like this is the poly separates to subtract width. Now if you look at this, you got doors everywhere and you got a clear surface. So if you go to the top view and look at this, all of these are cut here, you can see here. So this is all passageway here. So now what we need to do is essentially build the glass wall here, because we have the top edge. We'll draw up the plinth, and right exactly on top of plinth we'll have the mullions put here in a border manner, and drop some sash member and just fill the whole thing with glass. So I guess a good idea would be to put the walls layer off first and put our reference curves on. So these are the reference curves on the ground floor. We'll make this as a current layer, and we can put off the walls layer. There is quite a bit of clutter here. We might want to get rid of some lines. I guess these lines are repeated on the reference curves at a higher level as well. We had essentially drawn those lines to draw the walls, so we can get rid of those lines. I don't know what is this circle, but I can just hide it for now. And this is the offset we had created for the passage before we actually subtracted the windows here to cut away an opening into this wall. So guess I can put this curves in curtain walls layer under reference and pull it off. So we have a clean reference lines here. What we need to do here essentially is, since we've done the cuts, we really need to know where the cut begins here, and we need to start building some mullions around here. So let me just put the walls for a while here, just to figure out where are we kind of drawing the, where is the wall getting really cut. It's over here. So what we need to do essentially is we need to draw a line here, try and line there, and maybe we want to draw, since this is not a perfect curve, because we had split it earlier here so that it joins at this point. So there are like two different curves, I guess. We'll try to get one single curve here so that we're able to do some sweep operations along one single curve instead of multiple curves here. So let's just draw some circle. Make sure you're on the curtain walls layer and the reference layer, and put this on. And this line is already there actually, so we can leave it as is, and all we need to draw is a circle here, which is going to be exactly in the center of this wall. So we can just draw it with the center method, and we'll just put off the snaps for now so that we can just do it visually. This looks pretty good because it goes to the entire wall. I mean, it's right in the center of the wall. Not right in the center, but it's contained within the thickness of the walls. Great, now this sounds great. You can just put off the walls layer. And this is the circle which I drew just now. This was the older circle I was telling you about, which is split into pieces. So now this resides in the ground, so I don't want this. Wait a minute. I might need it because this is the outer line of this wall. So if you see, if I put on the walls layer again, this is the outer line of the wall, this is the inside, and this is the center. So I really don't want it, so I can put it off, because I am going to draw my mullions along this, and I am going to have it be arrayed in a polar fashion along this, and we don't want this extra part, so we can just trim it away. Let's just start building some rectangles here. Now you just need to make sure that this rectangle size is smaller than the thickness of the walls. You might want to just go back and forth in the walls layer. And we'll start drawing the rectangle, but I'll use the third option where I can define the edge first and then draw it. Okay, so post snap on. This is my one edge. I can put off the snap now and just draw it like this. Just make sure it's within the wall. Yes, it's pretty good. The size is pretty good. Now all I need to do is I can first polar array this and then extrude it, or I can first extrude and then do a polar array. So what I'll do is I'll first extrude this into the mullion. So extrude planar cut straight, and we need the height of 2.1 because that is the height of our opening. We want this mullion to fill up the entire height. Just type 2.1, enter. So we have the mullion drawn. Now we are just going to make copies of this along this, right? So we just hold on this and say polar array, use the center, and the number of copies, say I want about 10 copies, center. The angle to fill is basically you can either go by we don't want 360 view because we don't want it to be copied along the entire circle. We want it only to be copied along this pi. Then in which case we can just define it. I want it from this end to this end, but it has gone on the outside. Now we need to do some we need to just change the direction of this. So what I can do is I can say fill angle and just type the same value with the minus sign. So it's 231 instead. I'll say 230, and now you can see it has flipped around and hit enter. So now if I put my walls layer on, I have the mullions ready now. Now it's a matter of drawing some horizontal sash members and then filling the whole surface with glass. Let's just put off the walls again. Now in order to draw this sash bars, we need to define the profile because we already have a rail. So once we have a rectangular profile, we can just sweep it around the rail. That rail doesn't have to be at the same orientation as the profile. So what we can do is we need to draw somehow on this member. There's a nice option here. Go into C plane. Construction plane is basically this plane that you can see, which allows you to draw on top of it. So now if you draw something, you're able to draw it only on this plane. The minute I make this plane vertical or be attached to any other object like this, then you'll be able to draw on that construction plane. I can have a small session on construction planes recorded at a later date. But for now, we're just going to use bits and pieces of the scene. We are not going to cover all of this. We're just using a few of this. So now since this is an object, we want to start drawing on top of this object. There is an option in the C plane where you can attach the C plane to an object. So if I say set C plane to an object, we just select this object. We can see the C plane has now jumped all of its direction along the orientation of this. That means that if I want to draw a rectangle here now, I can just go ahead and draw a rectangle. Put your snap off. Now you can see the orientation, it's not drawing on the ground, it's drawing exactly vertical along this construction plane. So I can move this. Now I will not use gumball to move it because I can't be very precise. I can use a move command, use O snap and then use its midpoint and move it like this. So I've moved it exactly with the midpoint of this, and now what I can do is I can make copies of this all along this and then use a sweep one rail. So let's just do it. So we just make copies of this. So what I can do instead is I can actually draw a line here and perfectly divide it into the number of divisions that you want along this, say 4, 5, and then place them exactly along so. But for now, I'll just use a random copy command. So I'll just use a midpoint and I'll just hold shift. What I can do now is, since if you look at this axis, so red is here, green is here, that means if you look from this side, this is going to be a front view. So what I can do is I can go to the front view and this is that object exactly aligned to the front view. Now I can even just copy it from here. I can just take a midpoint, put my O snap on, and I can just copy it like this. One, hold the shift button, just do it visually. And we require one there. So we are going to move the last one with its midpoint to the midpoint, to the line. So now you have all of this, and now what you can do is you can select all of these, shift select this, and then you can just do a surface with one rail. But for this command you need to select the rails first. So we just escape out and go to swift one rail, select this rail first, and then select all the cross sections, enter. So it's not working. It looks like it's not working. So what we can do is we can just do it for one rail and then just multiply it. So what we can do is just do a surface with one rail for one rail first. Enter. Select the rail, select the cross section. We don't want both of these, we want only one of this. So shift select this. So enter, select the rail, select the cross section, enter, say enter. And there you have it drawn. And go for a freeform option. Don't just change anything, just leave everything to do not simplify. And hit preview to see a preview. Everything seems correct here. And go ahead and say OK. So it's just drawn a rail now. Now it's a matter of just copying this rail number of times. So we'll select this and we'll use copy command from the midpoint, and then we can go to the front view and we can just copy it to its midpoint here. Done. So if you look at this, now you made so many copies. Okay, good. Now it's a matter of, now we might want to save this construction plane, because at a later date we might want to come back to this orientation of construction plane. So that we can then decide to reduce the number of the sash bars or change its profile or whatever. In this case it will not be required, but in any case I'll show you how to do it. So go to set C-plane and named C-planes. Now you will get a dialog box like this when you hit on named C-planes. And then you can drag it like this. You can drag it to wherever you want to drag it to. And then while you have the C-planes in here, you can just hit save as, and I can see this is for curtain walls without a space bar. Say OK. And now I can change the default C-plane to world drop by hitting on this button. Yeah, and if I want to go back to this C-plane now, I can just double click on this and then it jumps to that plane. Fine. Now that we have this drawn, we need a glass surface coming right from the center of this, going all the way to 2.1 meters. But before that, let's just go to our layers button, go to walls, and just have a look at this. Looks pretty good. And what my guesswork is that we need to, since this is a hall and there's a passage along this, we might want to just open one or two of this and leave the rest of this as is, like fixed and stationary, because we don't want any excess from here. So let's assume we need to cut away these two openings into doors, so we need to cut away the sash bars. So we can do it, we'll just put out the walls layer, and these are the two ones we need to cut away. So we use simply split option, we use this as the cutting options and we cut away these portions. So we'll not use this plate because then we'll create voids in between these members. So we want the splits to happen in such a way that all of the members are left solid. The way to do it is to go to Boolean split. These are the surfaces we want to split. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we want to leave the top and the bottom here so that the, the glass door can exactly fit into that members frames. Okay, and then you hit enter. It'll ask you for cutting edges. These are the cutting objects. Hit enter. If you look at this, it has cut away these, so you can just simply delete all of these like this. So we have created two doors here. Interesting. The next thing we need to do is create a glass wall. Now we have all of this drawn under, let's look at the layer, the reference. We don't want it under the reference. We want all of this to reside under the curtain wall. So under curtain walls I can create another layer called as mullions, and so both sash bars and mullions can go under that. So we need to select all of these minus the reference layers. So how do I do it? Let me just, instead of selecting the mullions, let me select all of the curves and then put it under these. The simplest way to do it, because there's a curve inside these, there is also curves which we use for sash bars. So the easier way to do this is go to standard, go under this icon, and under this use select all curves. So select all curves, and then we put this curves in the reference layer, make mullion layers. So then we put this one off. Sorry. So these are also under reference. Let me think. Okay, let me just do this again. Go to select curves, and we just hide this temporarily. And then we select all of these. Go to mullion layer and say change object layer. Put this off, and then we just right click on this line to put on the curves layer. And now Control Z, select all of these and we put it under reference. So now we can just make a mullion layer on, put off the reference layers, and we get to see this. Okay, anyways, I need to put the reference layer on because there is one line which is below this. I need to select in order to extrude that line into a glass surface. So let me just put the mullion layers off now instead, and I want this, that's right. And we need to give it a thickness, so we offset this by thickness of the glass. So say we go to curve offset. You have to make sure cap flat is on, so that once you offset it, the ends of the offset are filled in here with the cap, so it becomes like a loop. We give it a distance of say 0.003, 0.003 or 0.002. Enter. We want it in this direction, so just created a loop. You can look at this, it's a loop. And now we can just simply with a solid extrude planar curve straight. Oops, just giving an arrow. We'll go ahead with this anyways, and we type 2.1. But I guess just divide it into smaller segments like this. Anyways, I don't want this. It's giving me an error, so just try doing it by a different method. So just say Ctrl Z a couple of times, and then instead we'll just extrude these lines first, and then we'll try to give it a thickness. So select this and go to surface extrude curve and give it a height of 2.1, and now we actually give it an offset. So we go to solid and extrude planar curve straight, and we want it to be on which side. We can have it on both sides on here. So on one side, okay, we'll go by one side, but we need to give it a distance. So we need to type in a distance with a 0.002. Enter, and which is the side. Student distance is 1 second. It's not an extrusion, sorry, we need to offset these and not extrude. So solid offset this surface, enter, and a distance of 0.02, 0.002, enter. Okay, we can take these directions, enter, and there if you look at this, it has got a slight thickness to it. Now we can put on the mullion layers on, and you need to split these again here so that these are separate components. So come back here and we do a split boolean. This is surface we want to split, enter, these are the cutting edges. Hit enter. Look at this, these are separate pieces here, including this bit. And now we can put all of these under another layer called as glass. So select all of these. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, and put it under glass. Yes. And then we might want to change the material of this to transparent. So we just right click on this, say select objects. So all of the objects residing on the layer will be selected, and then go to properties under materials, and you go under object and change the transparency of this to something where it looks transparent. So for this you might want to put the shading mode to rendered view, and then come back here and then change it. So this is completely transparent. We want it something like this. At a later date we will apply an actual glass material. This is just for a display, so just so that you are able to see through it. So leave to 85, it's good enough. When we go to shaded mode, the transparency mode will change. Okay, now that this is done, we just put the wall layers on and just see how it looks. You might want to put on the render layer on. It looks pretty nice. Let me save this at this point. Okay, going ahead from here, we need to now build the windows and the projection. So we can start with the projections first, and then build the windows, and then the plinth and the steps in the pool here. So since we are finished with this, we can do up the pool first. So let's see where our pool curves are. Pool doesn't have any curves under it. So let's put the walls off. Let's put the curtain walls off. So the pool has the current layer. So we have the pool layer here. We just need to connect this, join this. It's not getting joined. So we can use another tool to draw complete the looped curve within these boundaries. That's under curve edit tools, curve boolean tool. And then select all of the curves, enter, and just hit inside of this. The fact that it has grayed out, it means that it has created a loop around it, and hit enter. Now this is complete loop. There are two curves here, so we want this one, and then just offset these by, say, around, you can do it visually, about so much. Then we'll select both the curves and we'll extrude it using the solid extrude option. And now we want to go down and not go up, because we're not building up the walls, but we are building the walls for the swimming pool, which needs to go down. So you might want to give a distance here in negative, so let's say minus 1.5, enter. Now we need a bottom surface here, and we need the top surface of the water. So we can select one of the curves, select the inside curve, and we can create a copy of this. We can use gumball option here, and we want to make a copy of these. So we just to make a copy of anything, any objects using gumball, you just have to hold on Alt and just click on this. So if I say minus 1.5, enter, create a copy of this. So the original object is as is here. This is the object we wanted to create a surface from. So we just select it, go to surface, say planar curve, and we have a surface created. Next up, we want to copy this one again, slightly higher point here. So that becomes the surface of the water. So again, we just hold on Alt and click on this arrow. And just type a distance of say 1.2 this time, because we want a little gap between the top edge of the pool and the water surface. So now you can see, but it has copied the curve. I wanted to copy the anyways. So you can then convert it into a surface, or to copy the surface, use Alt 1.2. So surface is copied. For the surface, we give some transparency by going to material, checked, make it a little transparent. Okay, so we have the pool built up. Let's see how it looks along with the walls. Very nice. Put the curtains layer on. Looks pretty nice. Next up, we are doing the projections here. So let's look at the images and have a look at how we need to do it. So if you look at this, it's got some projection with a couple of stepped or rebated or cobble kind of profile to it. So that's pretty simple to do. One thing, we need to define a profile for the projection, and then we need to have a rail going on the exterior walls, like a perimeter almost, and then sweep that section along that as a rail, but it needs to be a continuous rail, and we don't have any yet as of now. But we can check if we have one. Let's put the reference curves layer on. No. Let's put the other reference curve layer on. No. So now what we can do is we can put off the curtain walls layer, we can put off the pool layer, and we'll go to the reference curves ground layer as current to put the pool layer off. We need to have a continuous curve along this. It's very simple to do. All you need to do is just draw a big rectangle outside of this, and just go to the same tool we used a couple of minutes before, curve boolean, and just select all of these curves, enter, and just select here. The fact that it has shown you a gray area around this, it means that it's going to create a loop both here as well as on the outside. So say hit enter. We don't want this curve, so delete it. When we click on this, there are two curves. So this is the curve that it has newly created. This is what we need. But I guess this is on the ground layer. We need to move it at a higher level. We'll keep one copy of this on the ground floor so that it is used for making the plinth at a later date. And let's put the walls layer on, or instead the reference curves layer on. Essentially, these are at the top of the wall, and we need to move it exactly at the same level. So what we can do is we can use a move command to the center of this and move it to the center of this curve on top, the red curve. So move your cursor along the edge of the circle till it jumps to the center. Just put off the perpendicular layer. There it is. So it has jumped on top. And we want to put this curve not under reference curves, but we want to put it under a new layer called as projections. So create a projections layer and we right click while it is being selected. Say change object layer. Now it's under that and we'll put off the reference layers, put off the reference curves on ground floor, we make the projections layer on, put this one off as well. So we just have got this. Now if I put on the walls layer, it's exactly on top of the walls layer on the exterior perimeter edge, and we need to create a profile here perpendicular to this wall. So how we can do that is by simply creating a line first from the center of this, like this. But it needs to be, see, the minute I draw a line it jumps to the ground floor. It doesn't allow me to draw exactly at this level. So what we need to do now is, in order for me to be able to draw at this level, we need to shift the construction plane at that level so that whatever is drawn resides on that plane. So again we go back to C plane and we go to this option called set C plane elevation. So this helps us to just move the construction plane at whatever height you want to and then start working on it. So whatever you draw will be then constrained to that particular elevation. So when I hit move construction plane elevation, it will start moving and you just need to specify the height at which you want to move it at. I can just simply come to the construction, the center line of this circle. So now if you look at this, it's exactly jumped at the same level as the height of the walls. It can be any point, you can move it to any end points, but it needs to be along this edge. So once it is here, now everything that I draw, so I can just put out the wall layer now, and I can just right click on this, from the center line just draw anywhere along this particular edge. I don't want to draw it at the intersection or at this curve. I want to, the fact that I'm using the center of this, I would want to cross it on the circle itself. Just draw it like this and hit enter. So essentially this is the height of the wall and we want the projection, and then there is a dome here. So we want these projections to be lower than this dome. So it will have to start here and then go down. So now in order for me to draw the profile along this orientation, we need to again shift the construction plane. So how we are going to do it is we are going to draw a line from this point, this intersection. We are going to draw it exactly vertically out like this. We are going to draw it vertically upwards in any of the other elevation views like this. Say enter, go back to perspective so that we have exactly vertical line. The way we are going to align this construction plane is by using 3 points. And this is going to be the origin, this is going to be the x-axis, and this is going to be the y-axis. So there is an option to orient the C plane using 3 points, which is here. Set C plane by 3 points. And the first point is your origin, second point is your x-axis, and the third point is your y-axis. Now if you see, the construction plane is exactly oriented in line with this orientation of this line. Now why it needs to be oriented in this fashion is because this line is exactly perpendicular with the curve at this point. So we want the profile to be exactly perpendicular to the rail here. Only then it will be swept exactly in the right manner. So now that we have this, we can just roughly decide on the size of the projection. So I can just use a rectangle, start drawing. Now you can see the rectangle kind of attaches itself to this construction plane. So let's say I'll just type at the rate I want this horizontal projection to be something like 0.6, and I want that to go down from this 0, so it will have to be minus, say 40, so it's 0.4 or 0.3, let's say 0.3. It has gone on that side, no problem, we can move it. So we can just use the move command, select this, enter, design, and then just move it like this. Now I'm going to have a slope first here, and then there's going to be a bit of this what you call it, the cobbling over here. Okay, so let me just draw a line, right click, draw a line, and then hold shift, and just hold shift and keep drawing just approximately. Control Z if you have done a mistake. Shift. I think this is good enough, so I'll just use my smart track and then align this line in respect to this point and close it off over here so that I get a complete loop over here. If I look at this, how many lines do I have? These are all separate lines. I drew them using the line command. Had I drawn it using the polyline command, it would have been all a loop. Anyways, no worries, I can just now select them individually like this, and I can just join them. So this is our profile, and we don't want this rectangle. So this is going to be our profile, and we are going to, this is exactly drawn along this orientation from the center and perpendicular out to this curve. Okay, now once this is done, I'm going to save this orientation of construction, okay, also by going to name planes and say save, and I'm going to call this as projection. So that I remember, so if I double click here, if I click anywhere else, and if I want to switch back to that, I want to do some changes to this construction, you can just double click on this and you are here. So we'll go back to C-plane world, and now we'll just sweep this around. Go to layers and make sure you're under the projections layer, yes, and we might want to create a sub layer for the reference curves. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all these lines under the reference curve, and we're going to sweep this. So just go to surface, sweep one rail, select the rail, select the cross section in quick succession, say enter, and just say enter, and there you have it. It has swept itself all around, except that it has some issues here. That's because the curve is very steep or very too curvaceous here. It's too acute over here in this area. That is the reason it's giving me this error. Now we might have to look at those edges. I could just go ahead and hit enter and then try to clean it up, but it might become a tedious process, so I might want to just do this again by just working around these corners first. So I'll do OK anyways and have a look at this. This is quite bad. So I'll have to do a couple of boolean split here between this, and still then I might get some open ends here and stuff. So just try to save my work by working around this corner and see what's the problem really. So we need to concentrate at this point. Let's go to the top view, and we need to move this plane on top. So again we go to C-plane elevation and we move it. You can use the center of this. You can save this again as eaves. Okay, go to the top view and just look at this. See, if you look at this, if I just explode this, see, look at this. This curvature is funny here. So we need to get rid of these, and we need to have this smoothly attached to this. This is not smoothly attached. So the way we can do it is We'll try to draw a circle which resembles this circle and which would be one single circle instead of all the small parts, because it's all smaller parts. While we did the sweep command, it kind of got divided and stuff. And also because it's very acute here, it's not joining up correctly. So we'll just try to, this circle seems to be okay. So we'll use these two curves as the tangent edges, and we'll try to draw the third one here. So we go to circle, tangent, tangent, radius, we use a tangent to this, we use tangent to this, and the radius is not quite correct. It should closely match up with this. So you can just type say 2.4, no, say 2.45. It kind of matches up, but let me just put on the wall layers, and yes, it kind of matches up. So there will be a little gap here. I think it's pretty good, but there was a little gap between the wall and this, so I might want to increase it a tad. So we'll just do it again and just slightly increase it. It was 2.45 that we used last, so we'll use 2.5 instead. I guess it's not slightly bigger than what we want. It's not joining with the edge. Anyways, the other way we can do this is, it'll have to be say 2.47 or something. Let's try that out. I think it sits on top of the walls now. Okay, but if you don't want to really play with this a lot in order to get the right one, you can use another option like 3-point circles and try using that. So for example, you can use this. This is the second point, and then maybe third point needs to be, you might want to put the wall layer on and just see where you want to locate it. To locate it maybe near is on. Yeah, this sort of matches, but you want to put off the O snap maybe and just get a little closer to this. Never matches perfectly because here we had done a mistake, so now it's kind of troubling us. But for this exercise we'll go something very rough. We'll use a 3-point method. Use this one, use this one, and use this should be very close. Yes, okay. Then we get rid of these smaller ones. There's one here, so this is the one, this is the only one we have now. We need to trim this away using trim option. I'm going to join this. Now again, if you look at this, it's not quite joining properly, so what we might want to do here is have a smooth blend between these two, for which go under this and we use the adjustable curve blend, or we can use the blend curve simply, which is a right click and just select this two. Close this. No, we don't want this option, we will use the other option, so we'll left click instead. Select this and select this and just say okay. trim and join needs to be on. That's very important, because what it's going to do is, no, there's a problem here. This edge, this edge, this edge, so you need to join from this and this. Yes, there's a problem with this and this, not with this and this. It's joining perfectly. It is zoom in here and come to just stable blend curve 1, 2. You can actually move this, shift this around and stuff, but I'm not going to do it. Just say okay, and now it's one single curve. There would be an extra portion here. No. There's a problem here. So what I'll do is basically cut it away here. So wherever I see an overlap, I'm going to cut it away. So I'm just going to draw a line, right click on the center of this, and just come over here and see the point where I need to cut. So I need to just cut it roughly here, enter. Just draw a line, and there's an overlap here, so I'm going to cut it here. Enter. And we're just going to trim away those portions. So just go to trim. These are the cutting objects. Enter. And we need to trim away this one. We need to trim away this one. Okay. We could have trimmed a little more on the side. So you can just rotate it here to here and just trim it a tad more, and then now it will work perfectly fine. I just will curve blend, select this, so hit enter, select this, enter, select this. Still I'm getting a little bit of a kink, so what I'll do is I'll cut it slightly more maybe. I don't want to cut it more because then it will not rest on the wall, it might change its shape. So maybe I want to move it a little bit. Just rotate this a little bit, rotate this a little bit, and just trim this part. And then instead I'll use a blend curve, right click. The blend curve doesn't join it to each other. So left click, 1, 2. Now you still see some kink happening here. You can change it. You can move this point a little ahead like this. That looks nice. And you can move this slightly ahead. So nicely trims the extra portion and joins it as well. So we select this, we select the rest of everything. Instead we just select everything in one shot like this. We just join it. The fact that it flashed, it's all joined up now, and we go to the perspective mode. Try doing the sweep now and see the difference. Oh my god, there's a problem here. You see why the problem is there. So warm rail, select this, select profile. Let me figure out why am I getting that problem. let's try doing it again. Surface with one rail, cross section, enter. Say enter. Just check the direction of the normals for this. Just try to change it here by flipping. Just try doing it again. One rail. No. Sometimes you have these options. You might want to check them out. Yeah, looks like it has worked. Yeah, so sometimes you might want to change these and just check. With you, probably most often freeform works fine, and sometimes road-like gives you weird effect, but this time this option has corrected things for me, looks like. Yes. So I'll go ahead with this and say OK. And just have a closer look at this. Now you can see there are no kings or nothing of that sort. It's all one surface. Then we can put on the other layers and see. But looks pretty good. Very nice. Put on the walls and see how it looks. Great. So now we'll do the windows. So for which we want the wall layers to be on. We can remove the domes and the walls. We can remove the projections as well. And we'll create a new layer called as windows. Make it current. And put the projection layers off. So we can go to one of the elevation modes here and just draw some funky looking shapes using curve command. If you're having difficulty drawing with this tool, you can use the other tool because this curve will pass through the points that you click on the screen. And then you can tweak them. For example, there is a problem here, so I can just put the control points on and I can just delete some of them and move some others. Click this, say enter, just shift these points like this. Okay, and hit escape twice to come out of it. Now we are going to move these windows on top of this. Some of these are pretty big, so I might want to scale them down. For example, this one is quite big, so I can come to 2D scale, just click anywhere and just scale it down. This one is big as well, so I can just scale it down a bit as well as this. move them close to each other, and we're going to move them all in line with the seal. So this one is a little lower. Go to perspective mode and you need to take them out here. So the way we do is just go to Windows, right click, select objects, and with the gumball you can just move them out this way. Next, what we need to do is get these shapes closer to these walls, wherever you want to cut them away into the walls, and make them actually perpendicular to the surfaces. So what we can do it is we can work between these two windows. So we can just move this like this. And for example, I want to move this one close to this wall. I can simply just start dragging and hit Alt till I get the plus sign and just move it closer to this wall here, and then just rotate it so that it's perpendicular to this wall like this. So it's almost perpendicular to this wall. Now we want to cut away a whole of this shape. So all along we've been using Boolean difference for cutting away objects. Now we'll use another method called as make holes. So which is found under under this. So just tear this away. And you see here these are all hole commands which we will cover in a later session, how to make holes in detail and stuff. But we want to go to make hole command here, and it will ask you to select the planar closed curves. So the curves have to be planar. Select, say hit enter, and use the surface. So use this surface, and then what is the extrusion? Now I don't want to take the extrusion way, look at in the top view, I don't want to take it beyond this wall because then it will cut this hole going through and through this wall. I want it only in this wall, so I want it up to here. So you can decide in plan up to where you want to have the extrusion, and see here what has happened. It has automatically cut a hole. So likewise I can take the other shapes. So for example I can take this shape, move it close to this wall, but I'm going to make a copy by holding Alt again. So start dragging and then press Alt so that you get a copy, and then you can just rotate this around using this bar. This is almost perpendicular to this. Now we use the same tool, make hole. This one is selected already, so it will ask you to select the surface. Select this surface and you decide how much extrusion you want into the wall. There it has cut a hole. Likewise you can put the other windows also. So I can take this one, move this one, or tap Alt, make a copy of this and rotate this around, move this again somewhere here, rotate it slightly, and make a hole. Select on this surface, this poly surface, take it inside, just cut a hole, and take one in this set. So we can take this one and cut a hole here. So move this around here, tap Alt till you get the plus sign, move it here, rotate it perpendicular to this, move it closer, then make a hole, select this surface, take it inside, cut a hole. Too many holes here, but that's okay. And we'll make a few here on this side. Take this one again, make a copy of this on this side, tap Alt till you get the plus sign, rotate it about this, get it closer to this. This one is slightly bigger than the length of the wall, so we might have to scale it down a little bit. So you can actually scale it right here. You can hold on this and press shift so that it's scaled in both the directions. And then hit make hole, select this surface, take it inside. Not cut a hole because select the surface. Because I guess the length is still bigger than this, so we might have to scale it a little bit more. Scale it only in one direction. Take a little closer to this. Make a hole. Select the surface. Take it inside. There's a problem here. Let me just see what's the problem. Make a hole. Select the surface. There it is. So likewise you can do the holes all around the building as you wish. Just play with it. But that's about our windows. Let's save the session. And let's just have a look at the entire building again. Put your walls on. Domes, walls, projections. It's pretty good, and we put the windows layer off. We can't put it off, but we want the curves to go off, so let's just put off all the layers off again, and we'll put all of these, and we'll create a sublayer under windows called graph. Put them under this. Put this off. And let's put on the walls, domes. Okay, and what we need to do next is a plinth. We don't have any plinth for the building, so we put the reference layer for ground on, which is on here. We'll get rid of all of these for now, and I guess we have created a copy for this earlier. We have a copy of it at a higher level in the projections layer. Let's see if we have it or no. We need to move the construction plane to ground first, and all I remember is we had a outline created for the projections here. We just put the ghosted mode on. And this was our profile. We had put this under okay, we have not put it under the reference layer. So we'll put it under the reference layer and put this is already on the reference layer. So what's the problem? And where is the rail? I think we lost it. Anyway, so we can draw this again. Go to the top view. Draw a big rectangle around here, and we use a curve boolean tool. Select all the objects. Hit enter and just select here. So when this is grayed out, hit enter again. Delete this curve, and we want this curve. So we'll put this curve under a layer called as plinth. We'll create a sub layer called as ref. Put it under the ref layer, and we'll create a plinth out of this. So go to perspective and go to solid, extrude planar curve straight, and we will extrude it down, say since we are going to have a contour and everything here, we can extrude it to the same depth as the pool. So we'll have to type minus 1.5. So if I put the pool layer on, say the same. So once we have a contour here, we want the contour to actually cross through this plinth, and at a lower level we don't want to see any voids. That's the reason I'm having about 1.5 as extrusion and not 60 centimeters as extrusion. So this extrusion should go under the plinth layer. Okay. And what we need to do next is put on the walls layer, put it on the shaded mode. So this is our entry portion. This is the halls. This is the entry portion. We need to have some veranda here and a covered slab or something. So how we do it is by offsetting this line, and so we can put off the food layer here. Just concentrate on this curve, or even this curve will do for that matter. We just offset these by, say we want a veranda width of 2 meters. Top view, we don't want this extrusion for now, so we'll make the reference layer as the current layer and just hide this for now. And we don't want the reference curves on ground as well, so this one also goes. So now we want to cut this circle away, so the veranda is going to be from this line to this line. So draw a line from the center of this. Oops. To say I will draw it up to here, use a near point to here, and I will just extend these lines. Boundary, extend these lines and cut away this portion. So this is the length of extent of my veranda, but again I need a loop here for me to extrude this portion. So what I do is I again go under boolean, select this, enter, select under this, enter. So we have a loop, and now we can just do an extrusion, solid extrude, straight, and this time we are going to go down, and we are going to give it a thickness of say 0.12, enter. Should have a minus, solid extrude, minus 0.15, and we are going to have it copied just under this so that it becomes a cover for this. You can hold on this, use your gumball and hold Alt and click on the arrow and just give it a height of say 2.2 or something and hit enter. Make a copy of that. Move it a little bit more as well. Just move it by say 0.2 so that it doesn't touch. Make sure it doesn't touch the projection. And we have the plinth. We have hidden that. We can put it on now. So this is how it is seen. And we need to draw some steps here going down the ground. So we can put the walls layer off for now. Put the projection layers off, and we don't want this, we can just hide it for now, and we want to concentrate working only in this area. So we want to have some steps going along this curvature, along the surface. So how do we do it? Let's go to the top view, and we want to draw it somewhere here. So what we can do is we can first draw it along a straight line, and then we can project it on this wall. So what I'll do is I'll just draw a line first from this point to approximately in this orientation. Enter, perspective, and we need to now align the construction plane again along this line so that we're able to draw the steps. So we go to construction plane, and we're going to align it with 3 points, so we want a vertical as well. So we'll start drawing a line from here, go to the front view and just hold shift and draw a line, hit enter, come back to perspective, and we have this two aligned at 90 degrees. We come to construction point, 3 points, first point, second point, and the third point. Construction plane is aligned, and we save this under name construction plane, save as, we call this as steps, and hit enter. Okay, we start drawing a couple of staircase blocks here. So how we can do it is we can start drawing using polyline. So just use shift and give it a distance of say 130 centimeters, 0.3, enter, and hold shift, hold tab so that it's constrained vertically, type 0.15, enter. That's about it, enter. We're going to now make a copy of this. So use this and use aerial method. We're going to use the linear method, and number of items, say 10, enter. The reference point. So the reference point you need to select it like this. Select from this point to this point so it goes along that direction. And we have 10 copies made. Now what we're going to do is we're going to select all of these, go to the layers. Make sure you are on the steps layer, but we haven't created one, so we create a steps layer, make it a current. And under steps we're going to create a reference layer. And I'm going to put all of these lines under that. I'm going to select, I'm going to go into the front view. Go in the front view, and this do the selection here instead of this. We don't want this. We can have it selected, no problem. We can have this one also selected, no problem. Select this as well and put it all under the reference layer. Next up, we deselect this tool by using control, and we just join this using join. Next up, we need to project this on the surface. So there is a command here called project curves. Just hit on that. Ask you to select the surface. You're going to select this surface, hit enter, and see how it kind of gets projected onto that surface. But it will project it all along, even on the other side. So you might want to delete it on the other side. Okay, so while everything is selected now, I can just deselect this. Instead, I should have deselected this and deleted that. Okay, let me do this again. So select this. Since this is one element, let's project this on the surface. Hit enter and just deselect this using control. Since everything else is selected, I can just hit delete so it goes away. Now we have this, so we don't want this now, so we just hide it for now. We want to project this, so we select this because we want the steps to go all along the surface, and we use a simple surface, not surface, yes, surface extrude. So we're going to use normal to surface. So which is the surface? This is the surface. No, this is not working quite fine in this case. You might want to use another one. So we can use, let's see, a long curve, and this is the curve. This is the curve. Let's do it again. Select the curve, surface, long curve. I want to use maybe this. It's not working. Surface. Extrude curve. 2 point. No. Extrude surface. Go to surface. Works for this because the problem here is this is combination of two surfaces. This is a different curvature, this is a counter curvature. But that's what is creating the problem. But generally, long curve should have worked. Surface, strip curve, a long curve. Yes, it's working. Nice. And then this surface should go under the steps. And we should give it some thickness. So we go into solid, offset, down, yes. We want to offset it by a distance of very little, so 5 centimeters. Hit enter. That's it. That's pretty good. And it goes along the curve. So when I put off the reference layers off, and that's pretty good. And what else is left now? We need to cut away some dough areas here, and we need to do the contours. So go to C-planes, change the C-plane to world, but before that we just check whether you have saved this to steps. Yes. I'm going to go to world and we just save this. We need to draw some contours now and see how the contours go around this. And the last but not the least, we need to cut some holes here. So guess what, we'll do the cutting away first here and then do the contours. So go back to this, put off everything else, including the walls and projections, and just bead along this. Now if you already have, this is under plinth, let's put off even the plinth. We don't want the plinth except for the reference lines, but we want these lines. I'll tell you why, because imagine this is the front wall. We want to cut away some dough area here. So I can use this block as an extruded block to cut away a hole into this, but then the size, the length of this will have to be a little shorter. So we need to move this line somewhere here, move this line somewhere here, so the opening is pretty smaller compared to the length of the veranda. So how we can do this is simply by, let's try putting out the plinth layer off and put out the steps layer off as well. This has gone under what? Steps. So we should put the steps layer off also, and we should be into the walls layer, but we don't want the walls layer to be on. So say we are on the default layer, we put the wall layers off and we put the steps layer off. Perfect. So draw some lines here from the center of this again, and we need to move these lines to the inside here. We need to move slightly here and here, so that we want to cut only this small portion. So how do we do it is just simply by going to rotate, select this, enter, first point, second point, move, enter, select this, first point, second point, move. Now that this is done, we need to sort of create a boolean curve within this, and we can simply go to boolean curve, select all of curves here, this, enter, and just keep clicking between this. Now you want the overall area, so you need to make sure combined region is S. So when you say combined region is S, it will combine this region with this region and make it into one region. So this is what you want to cut away from the wall. If it was only this region, it would have fallen outside of the wall, so it would have not done the job. So hit enter. Now we have one single curve. We can now extrude this to a height of 2.1, which is the height of the toe. Put on the wall layers, and then go to boolean difference. Select this wall, enter, select this wall, and have a cut made. Now what you can do here is you can either have a similar a class design that we had here done over here as well, or since it's quite wide, I would suggest you do something of that nature so that you get to see something like this. See, I've done it for the front as well here. You can do a similar thing and leave one bay of this open for the door. So I'll leave this to you. You can do it in a convenient time because you know how to do it. Put the steps layer on, put the plinth layer on, and have something like this. Now we'll do the contours. So for doing the contours, we can use a loft method and do the contours, but we need to have a couple of contours for that. Let's go to the top view, and you can put off the steps layer. In fact, put off everything else and just put your on the walls either. So I'll just put on the reference ground floor layer on for now, and just right click and just say one layer on. So only that layer will be on, everything else will be turned off. And I can actually draw some few curves like that. Snap off. And to extend this a little bit, so you can just extend it like this. And we need to set this at different heights. So what I'll do is I'll just select all of this, and I'm going to work between these two viewports. Now all the contours are at the same level. Fine. So I'm going to deselect this one. So only one is at that level, and all the other contours I need to move by. Just type here, so 0.5. Sorry, it should have been minus 0.5. We'll just do it manually, and then deselect one more, and then take it down, deselect one more, down, deselect one more, down, deselect one more, down, deselect this, and that's about it. So we have these at different levels. You can see. You just simply select all of them like this and say loft. Control Z. Just do it again. Just say loft. Just select all of these. I think it's correct, just that it doesn't have much of a curvature. But before putting the curvature on, I can put the record history on, and then enter. Now I can just take this one up and down, and this curve will change in real time. So you can shape it the way you want. Put the building on and just see how it looks. This is what I was trying to tell you earlier, so I don't want any gap between this and the ground, so I can take this one now a little higher up. Take this one a little up. Steps all hidden. We have the steps, and at this point I can take it a little low. Steps are seen. So pretty good. This part is done, and the last part we'll just try to draw some window frames around this and some glass, and then we're done with it. Just save our work. Come to this part, and we need to make a frame. So it's very simple. What we need to do is go to a tool called as offset curve on surface. Select this. This is the curve that we want to select. So offset curve on surface. Select this curve. No, not this option. So how do we do it? So we need to first make a copy of this curve. So we'll just make a copy of that curve first by going to we tried doing it again using the same command, offset curve on surface. I don't know why is it not working. Now it's working. We want to offset it on this surface, so it's asking you what is the offset distance. I'll just say through point and select the point. Now you need to zoom into this area, and we need to select a point on the surface. So somewhere here. Just a minute. Through point. Do this again. Let me come to the walls layer, the windows layer, which is here, and do this again. Set curve on surface. This is a curve I want to offset. Enter. circle and surface. This is the edge I wanted. I was earlier using this surface. This edge, see the arrows. The arrows suggest that we'll be able to offset it on this surface, but for this edge, we'll be able to offset it on this surface. So use through point, and now you can keep a distance. So we have an edge here. Now what I can do is I can just quickly draw a rectangle here. Put a snap on. Use a near point and just draw a small rectangle like this. And move its midpoint to a near point. Remove the intersection in all of this. That's about it. You define a rail and you define a cross section. Only thing, you might want to rotate it slightly like this, so that it's more or less perpendicular to the rail. So that's about it. And then we execute a extrude one rail. Select this as a rail. So like this is a cross section. That's about it. Oops. Do it again. So one rail, say chain edges. These are the edges we want to chain. So the cross section is this one. The freeform preview and say OK. Do it again, maybe, and it will work. Slip on the rail, like this. Select the cross section and enter. So you have to do it in 2 steps. You can change the color in this reverse. This color, and you can join the two. So flashed, and you want to draw the glass, so you can just select again offset curve, surface, this is the edge. This time it's correct, and you want to. So again, you need to do it in 2 steps because these are divided into 2 parts. So this one, through point, so right here, and you need to again offset the other curve here, so just hit enter, select this edge, and through point again. This time you can use this. Enter, and you need to join these 2 curves, this one and this one, and then you just have to do a surface. Planar surface will not work on this because this is a curved surface. You need to use patch. Just hit preview, so OK. Once this is done, you need to give it a transparency by going to material, use object, and give some transparency, and go to a rendered view mode and have a look at it. So let's just see what's going on. Select this surface, checked. Transparency has not applied to it, so give it some transparency like this. Come out of it and then go to rendered view. There you have it. Right. Then you can put on all the other layers. Just select all and just click on one lamp and just put off all your reference layers. including your image. And that's about it. So we've put class for these as well, and there are some curves which you need to get rid of. Just delete them. And this is pretty much it. Thank you.